1987 is the year it all broke, and the person who broke it was a journalist named Bob Morse, who worked at US News and World Report. He decided to start ranking law schools. And nobody cared at first. The first ranking ran in 1987, and most law schools just ignored it. 10 years later, those same law schools were restructuring their entire admissions and financial aid operations around it, because the deans had figured out something. The rankings had specific inputs they could game. Input number one, LSAT medians. To keep your LSAT medians up, law schools need a critical mass of applicants above that number, and so schools started handing out big scholarships to high LSAT applicants. Didn't matter if those applicants came from rich families, didn't matter if they personally needed the money, the median had to stay up. Meanwhile, the lower scoring applicants, often the ones from working class backgrounds, often the ones the school's diversity statements claim to serve, those students paid full sticker price to subsidize the rich kids. And I'm not exaggerating here, you could pull up the data yourself. Look at any law school's LSAT medians, then look up their merit scholarship recipients. You'll see the same pattern in every single one. The kid with the 172 whose parents are surgeons could get a full ride. The kid with the 158 whose parents clean offices might pay for that full ride. The second input is GPA medians. So admissions started favoring applicants from easy grading majors over applicants with harder resumes. So a 3.9 in communications could get you in, whereas a 3.4 in mechanical engineering from MIT, you could be waitlisted. The school doesn't care if the engineer is more qualified, the school cares about their median. Input number 3 is employment numbers 9 months out from graduation. That's what the ABA tracks. And so schools started hiring their own unemployed graduates into 9-month research fellowships, timed to the reporting window, which is employed at graduation. 9 months unemployed, and 1 day later, after that, that's what matters. And so this is actually what the ABA cracked down on in 2011, but the schools just got more sophisticated about it. Input number 4 is expenditures per student. The more you spend, the higher you rank. So schools jacked up their tuition just to have more money to spend, which raised their ranking, which in turn justified more tuition hikes. That is a flywheel running on debt. Then in November 2022, Yale Law School pulled out of the US News rankings. Harvard followed within 48 hours. Then Stanford, Berkeley, Columbia, Georgetown, and Michigan all pulled out as well. Within a month, basically every top law school had announced they were, quote unquote, boycotting the rankings. The deans went on op-eds and wrote podcasts talking about how the rankings had corrupted legal education and were taking a stand on principle. But then 6 months later, they quietly kept submitting their data to US News because the alternative was to drop in the rankings and lose applicants. Even the schools that publicly called the game broken couldn't actually stop playing it. Must submit standardized data on bar passage rates, scholarship distributions, GPA and LSAT percentiles, transfer rates, employment outcomes, faculty-student ratios, and more. And this is not marketing fluff. It's vetted, mandatory, factual information. Now, when you're choosing a law school, you want to control your own narrative. If you've been anxious about your GPA or your LSAT scores, you're not alone. But if you know how to interpret the numbers in those reports, you can make a clearer, more informed decision about how to choose the best law school for you. For example, you might see a school where you're below the GPA medians, but you can get your LSAT score above the medians, giving you not only a shot at getting in, but also getting significant scholarship money to boot. Now, of course, understanding 509 report data is easier when you know where to focus. Let's break down the main sections you'll see and how to leverage each one. First and most important are the LSAT and GPA ranges. These show you the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile LSAT and GPA for the incoming class. Now, here's why this matters. These numbers help you gauge whether your stats are within a school's comfort zone. Schools do admit applicants below the 25th, but usually they will offset a lower GPA with a higher LSAT. So you want to create 3 school categories: reach, target, and safety. But remember that if you have a stronger LSAT score, that can shift a reach into a target or into an admit, especially if you align well with the school's priorities. Secondly is scholarship distribution. This shows how many students received scholarships or grants, and often a breakdown by the average or median scholarship amount. Now, here's why this matters. This is going to be your roadmap to figuring out how generous a school tends to be. Some schools give half their class major discounts on tuitions, others might be stingier. Now, here's how to use this info. If you discover that 70% of a school's students get scholarships, you'll know you can push harder in your negotiations. On the flip side, if a school rarely hands out big awards, you might allocate more time wooing other institutions that have a history of better funding. Third is bar passage rates. This section is going to show you the percentage of graduates who pass the bar exam within a certain time frame, often 1 year after graduation. Now, here's why this matters. This is going to be a clear indicator of a school's academic rigor and support systems. If you see a severely low bar passage rate, that's a major red flag. Now, here's how to use this info. Look specifically for your intended region. Are the schools there preparing students adequately for the bar where you want to practice? If you see a mismatch, that might be your cue to look elsewhere. Fourth is employment outcomes. This section shows whether graduates land bar-required positions, JD Advantage roles, or non-legal jobs. It often breaks down location of employment as well. Now, this matters because no one wants to be unemployed or underemployed after spending 3 years in law school. And so a school might have an impressive overall employment rate, but if those jobs are all in a region you have zero interest in, that high percentage won't mean much for you. Fifth and final is the attrition and transfer data. This shows you how many students transferred in or out after their first year, plus their overall academic attrition. High attrition is a major red flag. It's going to signal that the school tends to enroll students who struggle to keep pace, or that the school's support system is lacking. A high rate of transferring out might mean people aren't happy, or they're just using the school as a stepping stone to a higher ranked one. So if a school's transfer out numbers are exceptionally large, you're going to want to dig deeper into why. Ideally, you're going to talk to current students to get a more insider perspective, because this may reflect a mismatch between expectations and reality. Now, when you're pulling together your school's list where you're going to apply, first, list your priorities. Write down your non-negotiables. This could be minimal debt, strong placement in a certain city, or robust clinics in specific practice areas. If you have clarity up front, that'll help you avoid being swayed by a prestigious name that won't actually suit your goals. Step 2, pull that ABA 509 data for your target schools. For every single school you're considering, download all those documents. I know it might seem like a lot, but trust me, those PDFs are your secret to making an informed, money-saving decision. Step 3, score each of these schools on your priorities. Make a quick spreadsheet with columns for scholarships, bar passage rates, employment in your desired region, and anything else that matters to you. Then rank each school by your priorities, not those of US News. You will then see at a glance which ones are hitting your sweet spots. Step 4, identify areas for negotiation. Where are you going to have leverage given your LSAT score and your topic, conditional scholarships. If I am offered a full-ride scholarship to Pepperdine Law School, should I take it? I have no desire to go into big law and love the idea that I can have all of my tuition paid off by the time I'm done with school. Pepperdine Law School says students must maintain a 2.8 GPA. Curved is probably a 3.0 to keep this scholarship. They also do not negotiate scholarships. Thoughts? Fantastic question here. So this applicant has not yet received the offer, but they're wondering if they do receive this offer, should they take it? A full ride is obviously a fantastic offer, but conditional, not so fantastic. The thing is, you don't always know how many people they are offering the conditional scholarship to. It's possible that they are dooming a large number of students to fail. So for example, if they offered half the entering class a conditional scholarship that said you must be in the top third of the class to keep the scholarship, they're automatically dooming a significant percentage, roughly 17% if my math is correct there, to failure and to lose that scholarship. If you lose a conditional scholarship, your options going forward are not that great, because what are you going to do? You're not going to drop out of law school, or at least you don't want to. Transferring is tricky. And so you're kind of left in a tight place there. So this applicant here, my advice to them, a full ride is great. Conditional is not so great. Also, they say they don't negotiate scholarships. Is that really true? It might still be worth asking. Or alternatively, maybe you can get better offers from other schools. I personally wouldn't want a conditional scholarship because you never know what could happen.
If you have a major life crisis, for example, those contracts are airtight. The law school is not going to give you a discount just because you had a personal matter of some kind. You also don't know, again, how many people they're offering the scholarship to. You say curved is probably a 3.0. What is curved actually? I don't know. The applicant here also includes a screenshot from the school's website saying that in the 2020 to 2021 academic year, there were 122 conditional scholarships accepted and 24 were reduced or eliminated. That means that 24 out of 122, which is roughly 1/5, were eliminated. 20%, that's pretty significant. It's not half, but it's also not nothing. So I would tread very carefully in this space. Also, if you fail to maintain the 2.8 GPA, do you lose the full ride entirely, or is the scholarship reduced a bit? That makes a big difference. All or nothing is a majorly risky place to play. If, however, let's say you got a 2.7 GPA, do you lose the full ride entirely, or is it reduced to 75% of a full ride? In other words, would you only pay 25% of your tuition, or do you suddenly have to pay everything? Those are fine points of negotiation that are certainly worth asking. Again, I know the school said they don't negotiate scholarships. I'm wondering if that's really true. In my view, if your numbers are strong enough, they will likely want to negotiate because they have incentives to negotiate. So consider the fact that you are a valuable asset if you are in the running for a full ride scholarship. If your LSAT and GPA are above the median of Pepperdine or any other schools you are applying to, they do have reason to offer you a scholarship. And I would also cast a wider net, see what other offers you can get, see if Pepperdine will play ball and negotiate, or if not, you just go somewhere else where you can get a full ride where you don't have to worry about conditionality or about keeping a certain GPA because, hey, life happens, stuff happens. If you win even bigger because you'll have less debt, more leverage, and more freedom when you graduate. This is how people who win think about things. Now let's clear up a common misconception that gets smart people into very bad financial situations. Law school cost does not equal tuition. When most people talk about a school being expensive or affordable, they're thinking in terms of tuition only. But the real number that matters, the number that will determine whether you walk away debt-free or buried in loans, is your total cost of attendance. And that includes one major factor almost everybody overlooks: lifestyle costs. Think about this. Let's say School A is ranked 25th and charges $65,000 in tuition. It's in New York City. School B is ranked 35 and charges $55,000 in tuition, and it's in Iowa. On paper, that's a $10,000 difference in your favor, which sounds great. But if you look closer, rent in New York City is way higher. Grocery, utilities, way higher. Health insurance, higher. Total living costs, way higher. In Iowa, rent is much less. Your other living expenses also less. Health insurance, also less. So the school with cheaper tuition costs tens of thousands of dollars more over 3 years just because of where it's located. And that's before interest, before bar prep, before life happens. That's why I tell my students, don't compare tuition, compare the total cost of attendance plus expected outcomes. Now here's what most people get wrong. They fall in love with a city, or they think they've got to be in a major legal market, or they convince themselves they'll live cheaply in a $2,500 a month apartment. Then reality hits hard. Most law students don't track their spending. They don't budget. They swipe their loan refund check and spend it like it's free money. And by 3L, they're shocked to see their loan balance ballooned by $50,000 or even $100,000 just from lifestyle creep. So here's what you've got to ask yourself now before you apply. What's the average rent in that city? Can I live without a car, or will I need one? Is the campus walkable, or do I have to Uber everywhere? How much is bar prep, and is it included? You don't need to live like a monk, of course, but you do need to understand the numbers. Because the truth is, you could take a $20,000 scholarship from a school in Los Angeles and still come out with more debt than if you took no scholarship from a school in Kansas. That's not theoretical. It's tough, but it works. But if you go way down in the rankings, look 150 schools down in the rankings, I'm not going to name names because lawyers love to sue, but you could pull up any law school's 509 report.
That's a public document that the ABA publishes, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. You got schools charging $55,000, $60,000, $65,000 a year for a 3-year degree, then placing 30% of their class into jobs paying below $70,000. Another 20% go into jobs that don't even require a law degree at all. And some of these schools have first-time bar passage rates below 60% with the same loan program. Now, new lawyer salaries don't follow a standard distribution. It's not a normal bell curve. They form what's called a bimodal curve with 2 different peaks, almost nothing in between. The NALP publishes the data every year. The right peak is big law at $225,000 a year. That's a pretty small slice of the class, being given mostly to T14 graduates plus top of strong regional programs. The left peak is under $100,000, maybe between $65,000 to $100K. That's roughly half of all reported salaries. So the theoretical middle-class lawyer job, the one you imagine when you think lawyer, that career path basically ended in the 2008 recession and never came back. And so you can run the numbers here. If you borrow $200,000 to earn $80,000, your monthly loan payment under standard repayment is around $2,200 a month. That's more than rent in a lot of cities, and you're paying it for 10 years. Or you go on income-driven repayment, which lowers the monthly bite, but adds tens of thousands in interest. And that's over the entire life of your loan. But either way, the math is the profile you want to look out for. Is the law school freestanding? Meaning, do they have a parent university to absorb their losses or not? If enrollment drops and there's no bigger institution to hide the deficit inside, you're going to see the problem and the law school's in trouble. Second big thing you want to look for is the tuition above $50,000 a year. Is it above the federal loan cap that takes effect in July? Third thing you want to look for is their first-time bar passage rate below 70%. Is it significantly below their own state's bar average? Next, is their bar required employment under 65%, meaning more than a third of graduates don't get a legal job 10 months out of school. You also want to look at falling admissions metrics. Is their median LSAT or GPA dropping over the course of 3 years? That's a red flag. Are they located in a saturated state? For example, Florida has 11 different ABA-accredited law schools. California has 19. Illinois has 9. If you're in a state with too many schools chasing the same applicants, the marginal school is going to die first. Now, if a school you're considering hits 4 out of those 6 factors, you're looking at a school that might be in real trouble. If it hits 5 or 6 of those factors, you should walk away. So you can research this yourself. Look up the 509 reports for any given law school that you're considering. Apply that framework yourself. Another few categories to pay attention to. Look at freestanding Catholic schools in saturated states. Look at regional law schools in states with declining populations. Look at schools that are specialty relying on a narrow applicant pool. Standalone law schools whose parent universities that have a shaky financial profile. You're going to know them when you see the data. So first thing, pull up the 509 report. Every ABA accredited law school is required to publish one. You can find them at abarequireddisclosures.org. You can download the PDF, look at the numbers, the ultimate bar passage rate, first year enrollment trend over 3 years, median LSAT and GPA over 3 years, and also search the ABA public notices. Go on the American Bar Association website, find this section of legal education. So let's talk straight up now. If you're thinking about law school right now, do the math, and I mean the real math, not the brochure math. Calculate your total cost of attendance, including tuition, living expenses, everything, under the new borrowing caps. Don't assume you can borrow whatever you need. Those days are over. Second, look up the school's actual employment outcomes, not the marketing stats, but I mean the real data. It's called 509 data in the American Bar Association reports. It's public, and it tells you exactly what percentage of graduates got what kinds of jobs at what salaries, and it's all on the ABA website. Just Google X Law School 509 and you'll find it on the American Bar Association website. Also, figure out what bar exam you're going to be taking. It might be completely different from what the current students took. And ask the school this question: what is your plan if enrollment drops 20%? If they don't have a clear answer, that tells you everything you need to know. Do not attend a school that might not exist when you graduate. Now, if you're weighing a school outside the top 50, a full ride scholarship is only worth it if the school is still open and its graduates are still passing the bar when you finish. A free degree from a school that shuts down is totally worthless. A discounted degree from a school whose bar passage rate drops below the minimum during your third year is a disaster. So look at financial stability, not just the sticker price. Now, if you're thinking about public interest law, public service loan forgiveness still exists, but the system around it has changed. Run the numbers under the new repayment plan, not the old one, and be honest about whether it works. Public interest law is definitely a calling worth pursuing, but you want to pursue with clear eyes and real numbers. Now, if you are a law school administrator watching this, stress test your school against a 20% enrollment drop for 3 years straight. If you expand during the boom, ask yourself whether those commitments survive if the boom was just a cycle. You want to build a financial cushion instead of a new building. Now, of course, a system can handle one problem. It can usually handle two, but it's going to break when a dozen problems hit at the same time. If you've got fewer students, less borrowing, no reliable way to price scholarships,
and I'm not exaggerating when I say a high LSAT score is the single most valuable asset you can bring to the table right now. And here's why. Every law school cares about their ranking. Their US News and World Report ranking isn't just a vanity metric. It directly affects how many people apply, how much they can charge, and how much prestige and donations they get to claim. And guess what two numbers drive that ranking? Their median LSAT and their median GPA. Your GPA is probably locked in by now, but your LSAT score is the one number you still control. And if you can boost it, even by just a few points, you instantly become more valuable to them. That's not just theory, that's economics. One of my students scored a 172. Not a 180, not perfect, just a strong, solid score. He applied to several top 50 schools. Some of those schools were charging $70,000 a year in tuition. But because his LSAT score helped them raise their stats, they offered him a full ride. That is $200,000 saved just for showing up prepared. Now, of course, that is no guarantee that if you get a 172, you will get a full ride. Your results may vary, but it is possible. I tell this story to illustrate the potential of what a high LSAT score can bring you. Now, let's flip the script. If he'd scored, say, a 162 instead with the same GPA, same resume, suddenly he's just another applicant. Instead of getting paid to go, he'd be begging for scholarships or facing six-figure debt. This is why I say the LSAT isn't just a test. It is a scholarship engine. And if you're serious about law school, especially in this new financial environment, your strategy has to shift from good enough to get in to good enough to get paid. So how do you do that? You stop dabbling. You stop treating the LSAT like a side hustle. You go all in, like your financial future depends on it, because it does. I'm talking having a daily study routine, mastering pacing, endurance, test-taking strategies, reviewing why you're getting questions wrong, not just counting up the correct answers, taking full-length timed exams on a consistent basis, and eliminating careless errors through systems, not willpower. This is not just about studying harder,